Now let's talk about the coral reefs. So before understanding coral reefs, let's understand what are corals. So corals is basically an invertebrate animals. It means it don't have any backbone, similar like worms. So each coral animal is called polyp, Polyp. So these polyps or corals, polyp means coral. So these coral won't exist individually, but they exist as a group. So in this manner they exist. So the process of formation of this kind as a group is called as budding. Budding. So yeah, here we can see. So corals lives in groups. So which is called as a colony. So the formation of this colony is called as a budding. And they have also a small microscopic algae, which is a blue-green algae present on them, which is known as a zooxanthellae. So which is responsible for uh, the polyp or the coral to be so colorful. So it is in this way. So this is the, let's say, polyp, and on this there will be a presence of this blue-green algae. So this blue-green algae will be present here. So this gives a colorfulness to the coral. Next, so between this zooxanthellae and coral, there will be mutualistic relationship. So let's understand this relationship. So this is coral, and this is a blue-green algae, which is zooxanthellae. So what does it mean by mutualistic? So both will be benefited. So plus plus. So what does coral? So coral basically provide components to the blue-green algae, which the blue-green algae is able to perform the photosynthesis. Similarly, so after performing the photosynthesis by this blue-green algae, which is zooxanthellae, this provide the results of this photosynthesis to this polyp so that it can carbonate their calcium. So here both are getting benefited, which is mutualistic relationship. Next, coming to coral reefs. So up to now, what we saw is basically the corals. So coral reef is simply a millions of tiny polyps. So if there are large amounts of group of polyps present, then it is simply called as a coral reef. So it can occur both shallow water and deep water. So in deep water means we can say there will be also a cold coral reef that will be present. But here, so okay, before, so this is an important point which we'll also discuss a little later. So let's see what are the conditions that are required for the formation of coral reefs. So coral reefs can be found where and when it's needed. So there should be some conditions which should be satisfied. So it basically needs 25 to 30 degrees temperature and also 27 to 40 ppm parts per million salinity. And a shallow water is needed, which is less than 60 to 65-meter depth. So here understand it is not uh, deep water, only shallow water. Here I told both corals can be both shallow water and deep water. So we'll understand what's the dichotomy or irony statement these two are. Next condition is sediment free and it should be a clean water. So if there are more number of sediment, then the coral will die. So there should be a sediment free situation and the water should be little bit clean. Next, so it would be beneficial for the coral reefs formation if there are little currents or the waves presence, so that there will be a distribution of oxygen easily available to them. Means easy photosynthesis can be taking place and the corals can flourish. See, okay, now let's see this. So, so shallow water and deep water. So shallow water. So here understand in deep water, zooxanthellae algae will not be present. There will be other algae which is not zooxanthellae. Whereas in shallow water, zooxanthellae can take place. So these are the conditions which we are talking about is zooxanthellae plus polyp situation. Here polyp will be present, but not zooxanthellae. There will be some other algae which is present in deep water. So deep water means simply the cold coral reef. So in exam there might be a question. So there will be only shallow water under which a coral reef can be found. So it is false because in deep water also it can be found. But if the question is in this way, zooxanthellae can occur only uh, in a shallow water, then it is true. Next, the next question is, let's say cold coral reefs is possible means yes, it is definitely possible. They will be present. Next, let's understand the different types of reefs, coral reefs. So first is fringing reef, next is barrier reef, next is atoll. So what does fringing reef means? It simply grows out from the land and connected to it. So it is in this way. So let's understand here with this example. So this is the active volcano. Let me change the color. Okay, this is the active volcano, and fringing reef means a reef is formed outside this volcanic activity. So it also says the same thing. So grows out from the land and connected to it. So example is South Florida reef. So in India also every reef that is present is a fringing coral reef, except in Lakshadweep. So in Lakshadweep it is the atoll that is present. Next category is next type of reef is barrier reef. So it is basically separated from the land by the lagoon. So it is basically around the shoreline. See, there is a lagoon which is differentiating this barrier reef from the land. So example, the popular example is Great Barrier Reef. Next, third type is atoll. So atoll is basically whenever there is a sink in this volcano, then there will be only present of this uh, reef around. So with no landmass connected to it. So it is found away from the coast. So it is around the about the mouth of the volcano. So example is Fiji atoll and also the Lakshadweep atolls. So Indonesia has the largest coral reef area. This is one important fact, and the next important fact is largest aggregation of coral reef is present in the Great Barrier Reef, which is a popular tourism present in Australia, Queensland.